So where's this mysterious fiancé of yours? Or did you just make him up? My sister Olivia's voice cut through the garden chatter, loud enough for everyone at her engagement party to hear. My cheeks burned as conversations around us faded and guests turned to look. He's running late from work, I said quietly, tightening my grip on my champagne glass. He'll be here soon. My mother laughed, a sharp, brittle sound that made my stomach knot. Work? On a Saturday afternoon? Darling, you don't have to keep pretending. We all know there's no fiancé. My name is Victoria. I'm 29, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the family disappointment. While Olivia thrived, earning her law degree, getting engaged to Bradley, a well-connected investment banker, I chose a different path. I became a marine biologist, spending months at sea studying coral reef ecosystems. It wasn't glamorous, and it didn't pay much, but it was what I loved. Standing in my parents' immaculate backyard in Charleston, surrounded by Olivia's perfect friends and their judgmental stares, I wished I were anywhere else. The afternoon sun blazed overhead, making the silk dress I'd borrowed feel suffocating. Victoria's always been imaginative, my father added, standing near the barbecue beside Bradley's father. Remember when she said she was going to save the oceans? Now she's creating imaginary boyfriends. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Some guests looked uneasy, but most were entertained. Olivia smiled sweetly, her hand resting on Bradley's arm, her massive diamond ring sparkling in the sun. She'd called 2 weeks ago to invite me, and in a moment of weakness, I'd mentioned I was seeing someone. Somehow, that small comment turned into my family assuming I was engaged. When I tried to correct them, they wouldn't listen, too busy planning another way to make me the punchline. So, tell us about him, Olivia pressed, her green eyes glinting with amusement. What does this supposed fiancé of yours do? Where did you meet him? I opened my mouth, then hesitated. The truth was complicated. 3 months ago, I met someone during a research trip in the Caribbean, Alexander. He'd been funding marine conservation efforts in the area. We spent 2 weeks together talking late into the night about ocean preservation, sharing meals in small seaside cafes, and watching sunsets from his yacht. When the expedition ended, he kissed me goodbye and promised to see me again soon. Since then, we'd stayed in touch. Messages, video calls when he could, even 2 visits to Charleston. We never talked about the future, but with him, I felt understood in a way I never had before. He's in environmental work, I said carefully. He invests in conservation projects, my mother scoffed. So, unemployed, that figures. No, Mom, that's not what I said. A trust fund kid playing activist, Bradley added with a smirk. Very on brand for you, Victoria. My eyes stung, but I refused to cry. This was why I'd stopped showing up to family events. Every occasion became another reminder that I didn't fit their mold, that I was the failure. He's actually quite successful, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He just prefers privacy. Because he's not real, Olivia sang, and several guests laughed. Just then, my phone buzzed. I pulled it out and saw Alexander's name. Running late. Traffic. Be there in 20. Love you. My heart tightened at those last words. He'd started saying that just a week ago, and every time it felt unreal, in the best way. Let me guess, my father said, noticing my phone. He's canceling. He's 20 minutes away, I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. Of course he is, my mother said, trading a knowing look with my Aunt Patricia, who'd come from Atlanta. Victoria, sweetheart, it's okay to be single. You don't need to invent someone to feel good about your life choices. I'm not making anything up. Then where's the ring? Olivia demanded, grabbing my left hand and holding it up for everyone to see. You said you were engaged, but no ring means no fiancé. I pulled my hand back, my face burning. I never said I was engaged. You all just assumed. Because you let us, my mother interrupted sharply. You wanted us to believe you'd finally met someone, because otherwise, we'd just feel sorry for you. And now, here we are, pitying you anyway, since your lie fell apart. Her words hit like a slap. I looked around the garden, reading the mix of amusement and discomfort on the faces of relatives and strangers. The fairy lights hanging between the trees, which once seemed magical, now mocked me. A promise of celebration I'd never truly be part of. "I think I should go," I whispered. "No, stay," Olivia said quickly, her tone sickly sweet. "I want to meet this mysterious fiancé, unless you're ready to admit he doesn't exist." I checked my phone. 15 minutes. I could survive 15 more minutes of this humiliation. Alexander was real. He was coming. He'd meet my unbearable family, and then I'd never have to see them again. Standing there among people who should have loved me but only knew how to criticize, I decided this would be the last time. "I'll wait," I said quietly. My mother sighed. "Victoria, this is just sad. You're only making things worse." But I stood firm, staring at my phone every few seconds, silently urging Alexander to arrive and prove them wrong. The party buzzed around me, yet I felt detached, like I was sealed inside a bubble of isolation. Olivia had drifted off, showing pictures of her wedding venue to an eager crowd, glancing my way now and then to make sure I was still there, still suffering. My mother cornered me by the drink table, continuing her critique of my life. "You. I know when you were younger I had such hopes for you," she said, topping off her wine. "You were bright, full of promise, and then you went off to study fish and threw it all away." "I have a doctorate in marine biology, Mom. I didn't throw anything away. A doctorate that pays what? 40,000 a year? 50 if you're lucky?" She shook her head. Meanwhile, Olivia's making 6 figures, marrying a man who earns even more. She's building a real life. You're just drifting. The irony of her using the word drifting to someone who literally studied the ocean wasn't lost on me. But I didn't bother replying. My mother had never valued my work. For her, success meant income and prestige, not research or environmental conservation. "I like what I do," I said simply. "That's what people say when they've failed at everything else," she replied. I walked away toward the garden's edge, where the neat hedges opened onto a marsh view. This house, this life, had never felt like home. I grew up here, yes, but I never belonged. Olivia had always been the golden child, the pride of the family. I was the odd one, the girl who rescued birds and spent hours reading about marine ecosystems instead of mingling at country club events. My phone buzzed. 10 minutes out. "Can't wait to see you." I texted back. "Warning. My family is awful." "I'm sorry in advance. I can handle awful." "See you soon," he replied. Despite everything, I smiled and tucked my phone away, just as Aunt Patricia approached. My mother's younger sister, equally obsessed with appearances, had never married, which made her especially sharp when it came to other people's relationships. "Your mother told me about your imaginary boyfriend," she said flatly. "Honestly, Victoria, even for you, that's a bit pathetic." "He's not imaginary, Aunt Patricia." "Then where is he? The party's been going for over an hour. Any real boyfriend would be here by now." I didn't bother explaining. Traffic, work, none of it mattered. They'd decided long ago that I was the family failure. Nothing I said could change that. My father joined us. "Everything all right here?" "Just chatting with Victoria about her mysterious fiancé," Patricia said with a smug smile. He laughed. "Come on, Victoria. You can admit it. There's no guy. It's okay to be single. Some people just aren't meant for relationships." The condescension made my jaw tighten. My father had always treated me like a child, though he was only 2 years older. He was exactly the kind of man my family admired. Wealthy, confident, and completely devoid of empathy. "He's on his way," I said again, for what felt like the 100th time. "Sure he is," my father replied. "Look, sweetheart, we're not trying to be cruel. We're just worried. You've always been different. And that's fine. But you don't need to make things up to fit in. Different." That word had followed me my entire life. Different because I preferred books to parties. Different because I chose science over law or business. Different because I cared about helping the planet instead of chasing wealth. "I'm not making anything up," I said tightly. Olivia appeared beside my father, her expression full of fake concern. "Victoria, I know you wanted today to be about you too, but this is getting embarrassing. Can you just admit there's no fiancé so we can move on? Why do you care so much?" I shot back, surprising even myself. Why does it matter to you if I'm seeing someone or not? Because you're humiliating yourself, Olivia hissed. And by extension, you're humiliating all of us. Do you know how many people have asked me why my sister is lying about a boyfriend? It makes our whole family look bad. I looked at her, this elegant, successful woman who seemed to have it all, and suddenly realized she was jealous. Not of what I possessed, but of something I might have discovered before her, a genuine bond with someone who cared for me, not for my status or usefulness. He'll be here in 5 minutes, I said calmly. Then you can all apologize, my mother chuckled. Oh, Victoria, you're really going through with this? What happens when no one shows up? What's your story then? I glanced at my phone. A new message from Alexander, arriving now. Where should I land? My stomach fluttered. He couldn't possibly mean that, could he? Before I could reply, a deep rhythmic thump-thump-thump broke through the party chatter. The unmistakable sound of helicopter blades. The garden fell silent as everyone looked upward. My mother's face went pale. Is that a helicopter? She whispered. It's probably just flying over, my father said, though his tone wavered. Moments later, a sleek black helicopter appeared over the tree line, descending gracefully toward the open field beside the house. The wind from its blades sent napkins and decorations tumbling, forcing guests to cover their drinks and dodge flying petals. Olivia shrieked as her perfect table arrangement scattered. I stood motionless, heart racing as the aircraft touched down about 50 yards away. The rotor slowed, and through the tinted glass, I saw Alexander's familiar outline. He was actually here, in a helicopter. Victoria, my mother said weakly. That's my fiancé, I replied, smiling for the first time all day. The door opened, and Alexander stepped out, strikingly handsome in dark trousers and a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He carried a large gift box and waved warmly at the stunned crowd. Even from a distance, I could see his slightly tousled hair and sun-kissed skin, proof of the work he did outdoors. He approached with an easy, confident stride, unfazed by the silence that had fallen over everyone. Behind him, the pilot powered down the machine, and a woman in business attire exited carrying several wrapped gifts. Victoria! Alexander called when he saw me, his face lighting up. He set down the box, reached me in seconds, and pulled me into his arms, kissing me with such tenderness my knees nearly gave way. God, I missed you. Sorry I'm late, love. Work took longer than expected. As he stepped back, I could feel my family's shocked stares, but I couldn't look away from him. You came? In a helicopter? I asked. Traffic was impossible, he said lightly, and I promised I'd be here. Nothing was going to stop me. But how did you even... He laughed, that deep, familiar sound I'd missed so much. Borrowed it from a friend who owns a charter company. Cost me a favor, but you're worth it. He turned to my family, still holding me close. I'm Alexander. It's wonderful to finally meet you all. My mother flushed red, somewhere between mortified and furious. My father looked uneasy, and Olivia's jaw had dropped. Bradley's smug look had completely vanished. You're... real, my mother managed. Very real, Alexander said with a grin. And very much in love with your daughter. My apologies for the dramatic entrance. I didn't mean to take attention away from Olivia's big day. He offered his hand to my sister. Congratulations on your engagement. Victoria has told me great things about you. It wasn't exactly true, but it was gracious. Olivia shook his hand stiffly, her gaze drifting to his wrist, a vintage Patek Philippe that likely cost more than her car. The helicopter... My father began. Just the fastest way to beat traffic, Alexander said easily. I was working on a site in Colombia, and when Victoria mentioned the event, I couldn't miss it. We've already spent too much time apart. He gave my waist a gentle squeeze. The woman from the helicopter reached us, holding several elaborately wrapped packages. Where should I place these, sir? These are for you, Alexander told Olivia and Bradley. Just a few gifts Victoria and I picked out. A little something for your celebration. Olivia accepted them with trembling hands. There were 5 boxes in all, wrapped in fine paper with satin ribbons. She opened the first, an antique crystal vase. The next held monogrammed silver candlesticks. The third, a gift certificate to one of Charleston's top restaurants, paired with a vintage bottle of wine. This is a 1982 Chateau Margaux, Bradley murmured, examining the label. This costs... It's nothing, Alexander interrupted lightly. Just wanted to celebrate you both properly. My Aunt Patricia edged closer, staring as though she'd discovered a rare species. And what is it you do, young man? I work in environmental conservation, Alexander replied smoothly. Mainly marine ecosystem preservation. That's actually how Victoria and I met. She was consulting on one of my projects in the Caribbean. Consulting? My mother repeated, eyeing me with surprise. Her research is essential to several of my initiatives, Alexander continued. Victoria's work on coral reef regeneration has been groundbreaking. I keep trying to convince her to join my team full-time, but she's loyal to her current research post. He looked at me then, his eyes full of pride. Your daughter is brilliant, he said softly, though I'm sure you already know that. Silence fell over the crowd. My family, who had spent the afternoon mocking me, now stood frozen, realizing how wrong they'd been. Alexander wasn't some imaginary boyfriend or spoiled heir pretending to make a difference. He was real, successful, and clearly devoted to me. I brought something for you too, he said, turning toward me. From his pocket, he took out a small velvet box. My heart skipped. I know we agreed to wait, he continued softly, but I couldn't hold this any longer. When he opened the box, I gasped. Inside was a deep blue sapphire ring encircled by tiny diamonds set in platinum. The gem shimmered in the light, as if it carried the ocean within. Victoria, Alexander said, his voice calm but loud enough for everyone nearby. I know your family believes I'm someone you made up, but I'm real, and so is what I feel for you. I've had this ring for 2 weeks, waiting for the right time. Then I realized, any moment with you is the right one. Will you marry me? Truly marry me, not just let your family assume? Tears filled my eyes, the kind that come from pure happiness. You already know my answer, I whispered. Say it anyway, he said with a smile. Yes, of course, yes. He slid the ring on my finger. It fit perfectly, as if designed just for me, because it was. Later, he told me he'd secretly learned my ring size from a coworker who noticed my lab gloves. The sapphire glowed under the afternoon sun, and I couldn't look away. Alexander kissed me deeper this time, and someone in the crowd gasped. When we finally pulled apart, he kept his arm around me, grounding me in a moment that felt better than anything I'd ever imagined. So, he said cheerfully, turning to my family, I hear there were doubts about my existence. Understandable. Victoria and I kept things private. She wanted to be sure before introducing me to everyone. But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere. She's stuck with me. My mother opened her mouth, then closed it again. We didn't mean... It's fine, I said quietly, finding my voice. You made your opinions clear. All of you did. I looked around, at my family's embarrassed faces, at Olivia's forced smile hiding her frustration over losing attention. Thank you for that. It makes what happens next easier. What happens next? My father asked tiredly. We leave, I said simply. Alexander and I have plans tonight, and we're no longer needed here. Turning to my sister, I added, Olivia, congratulations again on your engagement. I wish you a wonderful wedding. Then to my parents. And thank you for hosting. It's been enlightening. Victoria, wait, my mother said, reaching for my arm. Should we? I replied. What's left to discuss? How you spent? The past hour calling me a liar? Mocking my choices and my career? I shook my head. There's nothing more to say. Alexander's assistant, who had been standing quietly nearby, stepped forward with a large envelope. These are for the bride and groom, she said, handing it to Olivia. From Victoria and Alexander. Olivia opened it, her hands trembling. Her eyes widened. This is $50,000, Alexander finished calmly. Victoria mentioned your plans for an elaborate wedding. Consider it our gift. Use it however you wish. The sum was staggering, especially from the man my family had dismissed as jobless or some privileged idealist. It wasn't just generous. It made a statement. Bradley looked pale, almost faint. We should go, I said, taking Alexander's hand. We have dinner reservations. And the helicopter needs to return before sunset. As we walked toward the helicopter, my family stood frozen among their stunned guests. I could already hear the whispers about who Alexander really was, how wealthy he must be, and what it meant that he'd arrived by helicopter with extravagant gifts. But for once, I didn't care. Alexander helped me climb aboard, and as we lifted off, I glanced down at the garden below. Olivia still clutched the check. My parents were arguing quietly, and guests were already filming, no doubt ready to upload the entire scene online. "You okay?" Alexander asked, fastening his seatbelt beside me. "I'm perfect," I said, and meant it. The sapphire caught the fading sunlight, glinting like a promise of new beginnings. The flight back to the city felt dreamlike. Alexander held my hand the entire way, occasionally lifting it to kiss my fingers, careful not to disturb the new weight of the ring. Below us, Charleston's historic rooftops faded into the harbor, and then the open sea I'd studied for years. The pilot, Douglas, clearly familiar with Alexander, guided us smoothly toward the downtown helipad. "I can't believe you did all that," I said for what must have been the 10th time since takeoff. Alexander grinned. "Which part? The helicopter? The gift? The public proposal?" "All of it. You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," he said gently. "When you texted me earlier about how they were treating you, I wanted to drive straight there. But then I realized something more impactful would speak louder." He brushed his thumb across my ring. "I'd been planning to propose for weeks. I had everything arranged for next month. Sunset on the beach, private dinner, the whole thing. Very romantic. But this felt right. But today made me realize something. The most romantic thing I could ever do is simply be there for you when you need me." My throat tightened with emotion. "You showed up in a helicopter with gifts and proposed in front of everyone." He smiled a little awkwardly. "I might have gone overboard," he admitted, "but your family needed to see that you're not an afterthought or a disappointment. You're remarkable, Victoria. What you do matters. The research you published last year on coral bleaching prevention has been referenced in 17 conservation proposals. Do you know how many reefs might be saved because of your work?" I looked down at our joined hands. This was what my family never understood. To them, success meant money and recognition. To Alexander and me, success meant creating change, doing something that truly mattered. Finding each other still felt like a miracle. "What project site were you at today?" I asked, partly to shift the topic, partly out of genuine curiosity. Alexander's conservation work took him all over the world, and I loved hearing about his new initiatives. "Kolia," he said. "We're working with local communities to set up protected marine zones. There's an incredible reef system off the coast that's been damaged by industrial fishing, and we're trying to give it a chance to recover. I met with government officials this morning, then flew straight here. Technically, I should have stayed another day for follow-ups, but I told them I had something more important to attend." "Alexander, you didn't have to leave your work for me." "For the woman I love, yes, I did. And they understood, well, mostly." He laughed. "My project manager wasn't thrilled about rescheduling everything, but she'll survive. Besides, I wanted to meet the family that somehow raised someone as incredible as you, even if they tried their best to make you think otherwise." The helicopter began to descend, and the city came into view below us. Alexander had texted me the address earlier, a luxury hotel in downtown Charleston with rooftop access. The kind of place I'd never stayed before, the kind of indulgence I usually thought unnecessary. Yet as we landed and Alexander helped me out, steadying me with his hand, I felt a flicker of excitement. "I booked us a suite," he said, as we headed toward the rooftop door, leaving Douglas to handle the helicopter. "I figured you wouldn't want to go back to your apartment just yet. Too much to process, maybe." He was right. The thought of sitting alone, replaying the afternoon's events, made my chest tighten. "That sounds perfect," I said softly. The suite was on the top floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. Decorated in calm, neutral tones, it featured a king-sized bed that looked impossibly comfortable, and a sitting area with a breathtaking view. Alexander tipped the bellhop and closed the door behind him, giving us privacy at last. "So," he asked, wrapping his arms around me, "how are you really feeling? That's when the tears came. Not happy ones, but the raw, angry tears I'd held back all afternoon. Alexander held me close, stroking my hair, whispering gentle words I barely understood. Years of being told I wasn't enough, all the comparisons to Olivia, all the dismissals of my work. It all came flooding out. "I hate that they made you feel this way," Alexander said once I'd calmed down. "I hate that they couldn't see what I see, what everyone who truly knows you sees." "They've always been like this," I murmured against his chest. I thought I was over it. I thought I didn't care anymore. But today, when they laughed at me and said I made you up, "I know," he said softly. "And I'm sorry I wasn't there sooner. Traffic was awful, but I should have left earlier." "You arrived in a helicopter, Alexander," I said with a shaky laugh. "I think you made up for it," he chuckled, the sound vibrating against my cheek. "Fair point. Though I must admit, the look on your sister's face when I handed her that check was worth every penny." "Did you see her expression?" "I saw everyone's. My mother looked stunned. My father couldn't stop staring at your watch. And Bradley," I looked up at him. "You do realize that wine was probably worth more than all the other gifts combined, right?" "I have a very good wine broker," he replied with a grin. "And I wanted to make a point. They thought you'd settled for some nobody. I wanted them to understand that you could have anyone you want to admire. And you chose someone who truly values you." "Did you really spend $50,000 just to prove a point?" "I spent $50,000 on my future sister-in-law's wedding," he said evenly, "because my fiancé deserves for her family to see her for who she truly is. Generous, compassionate, and far too good for their judgment." He cupped my face gently. "Besides, I can afford it. The Marine Conservation Fund is thriving, and several of my other ventures have done well. $50,000 is a small price if it makes them think twice before dismissing you again." I should have felt uneasy at how easily he spoke of money, but I understood what he meant. He was protecting me the only way he could, speaking in the one language my family respected: wealth and status. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing since we left. "I'm afraid to look." "Then don't," he said firmly. "Not tonight. Tonight is about us, about celebrating our engagement properly." He checked his watch. "Dinner's at 8. That gives us 2 hours to relax and forget your family's drama. Tomorrow we'll deal with everything else. But tonight I just want to be with my fiancé." The word still felt strange, thrilling. Even fiancé. I was someone's fiancé. My phone buzzed again, insistent and sharp, making Alexander sigh. "You should probably check that, in case it's work or something important." Reluctantly, I pulled my phone from my clutch and immediately wished I hadn't. 23 missed calls. 47 text messages. 3 voicemails, all from my mother. The texts ranged from angry to pleading to demanding. But it was the voicemail that made my stomach twist. I put it on speaker so Alexander could hear. "Victoria, call me back immediately. I don't know what you think you're doing, but that man is not who he says he is." I had Patricia look him up. There's almost nothing about him online. No social media, no company listings, nothing. Either he's hiding something or he's deceiving you. Call me right now before you embarrass this family any further. I stared at my phone, her voice echoing through the elegant hotel suite. Alexander sat perfectly still beside me, expression unreadable. For the first time, a sliver of doubt crept in, not about him, but about myself. How well did I really know him? We'd only spent about 6 weeks together in person over the past 3 months. The rest was through video calls, messages, and emails about conservation work. "Say something," I whispered. Alexander ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I'd learned meant he was collecting his thoughts. "Your mother isn't entirely wrong," he said quietly. "I don't use social media. I don't advertise my work. And if anyone searches for me, they'll only find a few mentions in obscure environmental journals or conference records." My stomach sank. "Why?" He exhaled and walked to the window overlooking the harbor. "About 5 years ago, I learned the hard way that being too visible in conservation draws the wrong kind of attention. I was working in the Philippines, trying to shut down an illegal fishing ring that was destroying a protected reef. I was young, idealistic, and outspoken. I did interviews, posted online, made myself a target." He paused. "Someone decided to teach me a lesson. What happened? They burned down the research station I funded. 3 local staff were injured. One lost an eye. His tone was calm, but the pain was clear beneath it. After that, I had a choice: keep fighting publicly and endanger others, or work quietly behind the scenes where I could still make a difference without risking lives. I chose the latter. I moved to stand beside him and took his hand. "I'm so sorry." "It's old history now," he said softly. "But that's why I stay private. The people who need to know who I am, government officials, researchers, organizations, they know. No one else needs to." He gave my hand a small squeeze. "I get why that seems suspicious to your family. To them, anyone without an online footprint must be hiding something." "My mother thinks you're scamming me," I admitted. "I know. And honestly, I can understand her point. From her view, a wealthy man appears out of nowhere, proposes in a grand gesture, spends lavishly. It looks like a con." He turned to me fully. "Victoria, I'm not perfect. I have a complicated past and my share of mistakes. But I'm not lying to you. Everything I've told you about my work and my life is true. I can prove it if you want." "I don't need proof," I said quietly. "I believe you. Are you sure? If you need time to think, I'll understand." We moved quickly, maybe too quickly. My proposal today was impulsive, though I meant every word. "I don't want you to feel pressured." I looked down at the ring on my finger, the sapphire glinting in the light. "Do you want to take it back?" "God, no," he said firmly. "But I want you to be certain, not because of your family, but because you're sure about us." Before I could respond, my phone rang again. My mother. I declined it. Then Olivia called. Then my father. It felt coordinated. A relentless assault. "They're not going to stop," I muttered. "Then maybe we should talk to them," Alexander said calmly. "Answer their questions. Clear the air. I'll move our dinner reservation. This is more important. You'd face them again after what happened today?" "They didn't hurt me," he said softly. "They hurt you. And if talking will bring you peace, then yes, I'll face them." Against my better judgment, I called my mother. She answered immediately. "Finally. We're at your apartment. We need to talk to you and this Alexander person right now." "You're at my apartment?" "Mom, I didn't invite you. This is too important. Your father, Olivia, and Bradley are all here. We need answers." I glanced at Alexander. He nodded once. "Fine. But we're not coming there. Meet us at the waterfront cafe in 30 minutes. Public and neutral." "Victoria, this is a family matter. We shouldn't discuss it in public. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them." I surprised myself with the firmness in my voice. "Fine." 30 minutes, she said and hung up. I dropped the phone and exhaled. I can't believe they went to my apartment. "This is your family showing their true nature," Alexander said, sitting beside me. "Honestly, it's better to deal with it now. Answer everything and move on. What if they convince me you're dangerous? What if they make me doubt you?" He took my hands gently. "Then doubt me. That's your right. But after everything we've shared, the projects, our talks about the future, I hope you already know who I am." I leaned against him. "I do. You're the man who spent hours sorting coral samples when you didn't have to. The man who cried watching baby sea turtles hatch. The man who listens, really listens, when I talk about my work." "I know you, Alexander." "Good," he said with a faint smile. "Then let's go help your family see what you already know." We changed for dinner. Me in a simple navy dress, him in a fresh shirt he'd brought earlier. In the elevator down to the lobby, I tried to steady myself for what was coming. The waterfront cafe overlooked the marina, a casual spot popular with both tourists and locals. We arrived first and chose a large outdoor table with a view of the entrance. "You okay?" Alexander asked, ordering water for both of us. "No, but I will be," I said, twisting the ring on my finger. My family arrived right on time, my mother leading, with my father, Olivia, and Bradley behind her. My mother's makeup was slightly smudged, like she'd been crying. Olivia looked furious. Bradley appeared uneasy. My father's face was unreadable. They sat down without a word, tension heavy between us. The waitress quickly took their drink orders and disappeared. "So," my mother began, voice tight, "are you going to explain yourself? Or should we just accept that you're suddenly engaged to someone we know nothing about?" "I don't owe you an explanation," I said quietly, "but I'll give you one anyway. Alexander and I met 3 months ago during a research expedition he funded. We've been together since then. Today, he proposed. I said yes. That's it. 3 months? Olivia scoffed. You've known him 3 months and got engaged? That's insane. You got engaged to Bradley after 6? I reminded her. That's different, she said sharply. We moved in the same circles. Our families knew each other. You met this man on some random island. The Caribbean? Alexander corrected politely. And it wasn't random. I own property there. Victoria was conducting reef research connected to one of my preservation projects. My father leaned forward. What exactly do you do, Alexander? What company do you run? Where's your office? I manage a private conservation fund, he explained. I don't have a traditional company or office. I work wherever the projects take me. And this fund? Is it profitable? Enough, he said simply. I also have investments, real estate, tech startups, renewable energy. The fund is my passion. The investments keep it running. But there's nothing online about you, my mother pressed. Patricia searched everywhere. What kind of businessman has no digital presence? Alexander smiled politely. One who values privacy and safety? I've received threats from people whose profits my work disrupts. Staying private protects me, and the people I work with. How convenient, Bradley muttered, speaking for the first time. His tone edged with suspicion as he studied Alexander carefully. No online presence means we can't verify any of this. For all we know, that helicopter was rented with money you don't have. Those gifts were bought on credit, and you're running some elaborate scheme on Victoria. The accusation hung in the air. My face burned with anger, but Alexander placed a calm hand on my knee under the table. You're right, he said, surprising everyone. You can't verify what I'm saying with a simple internet search. But I can provide proof if you need it. I have bank statements, property deeds, and investment portfolios. I can also give you contact details for the director of the Caribbean Conservation Alliance, the head of marine biology at the University of Miami, and the governor of the province in Colombia where I was working this morning. They'll all confirm who I am and what I do. Then why not just put it online? My father demanded. I learned the hard way that public exposure in this work can be risky, I explained to Victoria. But I'm not asking you to take my word for it. I'm offering concrete evidence. Alexander pulled out his phone. I'm sending all the contact information right now, with authorization for them to discuss my work and finances. Call them, email them, do whatever due diligence you need. I have nothing to hide. My phone buzzed as the email arrived. I glanced at it. A list of names, phone numbers, and emails for highly credible people in conservation and business. Scanned documents were attached too, property deeds and bank statements with balances that made my eyes widen. This could all be fake, Olivia said, though her voice lacked confidence. Call them, Alexander challenged. Right now. I'll wait. My father scrolled through the attachments. I watched his expression shift from doubt to surprise, then to something like reluctant respect. He tapped a number and stepped away to make a call. While he did, Alexander addressed my mother and Olivia. I want to clarify something else. You seem to think I'm taking advantage of Victoria, but it's the other way around. Your daughter is one of the most brilliant marine biologists of her generation. Her work is cited in conservation proposals worldwide. She's dedicated her life to protecting ocean ecosystems. Most people her age are focused on wealth and status, yet today you've treated her like a failure because she chose purpose over profit. We never said she was a failure, my mother protested weakly. Really? I heard you tell her she wasted her potential, mock her career choice, and suggest she invented me because no real man would want her. Should I continue? The table fell silent. Olivia stared at her hands. My mother went pale, and Bradley looked like he wanted to vanish. I didn't know you heard all that, my mother said quietly. I heard enough, Alexander said firmly. Let me be clear, Victoria didn't settle for me. I'm the lucky one. She could choose anyone, and she chose me, not for money, status, or helicopter rides, but because we share the same values and passion for improving the world. My father returned, his expression troubled. I just spoke with Dr. Harrison at the University of Miami. He confirmed everything Alexander said. Without his funding, their marine conservation program would have closed 3 years ago. He called Alexander one of the most important private advocates for ocean preservation. That's just one person, Olivia said stubbornly. I don't think I need to call the others, my father interrupted. The bank statements alone. He trailed off, looking at me with new understanding. Victoria, why didn't you tell us any of this? You never asked, I said simply. You never inquired about my work in the Caribbean or the people I met. You assumed my life was empty because it didn't match what you expected. We only wanted you to be happy, my mother said, genuinely distressed for the first time. I am happy. I have security and stability. I just found them differently than you imagined. Olivia's phone buzzed. She looked at it, shocked. The check? It cleared. $50,000 deposited into the wedding account. She looked up at Alexander. You really just gave us $50,000. I did. Consider it an investment in family peace, though that might have been optimistic, he replied. Bradley had been reading something on his phone. He set it down with a heavy sigh. I looked up the Colia project Alexander mentioned. It's real. News articles, government press releases, he really met officials this morning. He looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry. We all thought you were so desperate you'd invent a boyfriend to feel better. I know what you thought, I finished. You made it clear. We were wrong, my father said firmly. He turned to Alexander. I apologize for our suspicion and behavior today. You came to celebrate with us, and we treated you and Victoria abominably. Alexander shook his hand, though tension remained. I appreciate the apology, but it's not me you need to apologize to. Victoria has carried your disappointment and criticism for years. All eyes turned to me. I felt the urge to smooth things over, to forgive easily, but Alexander's hand found mine under the table, steadying me. I'm not going to say it's okay, I said slowly. What happened today wasn't okay. What's been happening for years isn't okay. 2 weeks after Olivia's engagement party, I woke up in Alexander's arms in my small apartment. We'd spent the last 14 days in a blissful bubble, mostly ignoring the outside world except for work. He'd extended his stay in Charleston, working remotely while I continued my research at the coastal lab. Every morning, coffee together. Every evening, cooking dinner and talking about everything and nothing. It was perfect. Too perfect. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a text from Olivia. Family dinner tonight at Mom and Dad's. Please come. We need to talk about something important. I showed Alexander. He was already awake, his dark hair mussed from sleep, looking unfairly handsome in the morning light. Do you want to go? He asked. Not particularly. But if we want to try to rebuild this relationship, I suppose I should make an effort. Then we'll go together. I texted back a confirmation. Olivia replied immediately with a heart emoji. That was unusual. She never sent heart emojis to me. The day passed quickly. I spent the morning at the lab analyzing water samples from our latest reef survey. Alexander joined me for lunch, bringing sandwiches from my favorite deli. He listened patiently as I explained my findings on nutrient levels and their impact on coral health. He asked intelligent questions, genuinely interested, and I was reminded why I'd fallen for him. He saw my work as important, not just a hobby. At 6:04 p.m., we arrived at my parents' house in Alexander's rental car. The same perfectly manicured lawn, the same imposing facade, but somehow less intimidating now. Maybe because I had Alexander with me. My mother answered the door and, surprisingly, pulled me into a real hug. Thank you for coming, she said softly. Both of you. Inside, the dining table was set for 6. My father opened a bottle of wine, not the expensive kind Alexander had gifted them, but decent nonetheless. Olivia and Bradley were already seated, looking nervous. What's going on? I asked as Alexander pulled out my chair. We want to talk to you, my father began. After what happened at the party, your mother and I have been thinking about how we treated you, about our priorities, and what really matters. My mother took a shaky breath. We've been terrible parents to you, Victoria. We want to make amends. I glanced at Alexander, who squeezed my hand under the table. Okay, I said cautiously. We've set up a fund for marine conservation research in your name, my father continued. It's not huge, $50,000 to start, but we want to support the work you're doing the way we should have all along. I stared at them, speechless. $50,000, the same amount Alexander gave Olivia for her wedding, my father added. We also want to feature your work in our holiday letter this year. For years, we've highlighted Olivia's achievements and barely mentioned you. That changes now. People should know our daughter is doing important work, making a real difference, Olivia added, her voice small. I've been thinking about what you said. that I should have defended you. You were right. I was jealous, not of what you had, but that you had the courage to follow your own path. You were brave, and I was a coward. Tears streamed down my face. Alexander handed me a napkin, his own eyes shining. I don't know what to say, I managed. You don't have to say anything, my father replied. We don't expect forgiveness immediately. We just want you to know we're trying. We see you now, Victoria. Really see you, and we're proud of you. Dinner was surprisingly pleasant. We discussed my research, Alexander's projects, and Olivia's wedding plans. Bradley asked intelligent questions about coral reef ecosystems, and my mother actually listened. It felt like a real family dinner for the first time in years. As we were leaving, Olivia caught my arm. There's something else, she said quietly. I've been talking to the partners at my firm. They handle environmental law. I mentioned your work, and they're interested in providing pro bono legal services for conservation initiatives. Maybe Alexander's fund could use that support. I looked at my sister, this woman I'd resented, and saw her genuinely trying. That would be amazing, Olivia. Thank you. In the car on the way back, Alexander was quiet. Finally, he said, That was unexpected. Good? I asked. Definitely good. Your family is really trying. They are. I didn't think they would be, but they are. You deserve this, Victoria. You deserve people who see your worth. And you have me. That's enough. I have you, and now I have them too. Maybe I can have both. The next morning, my phone rang. It was barely 7 a.m., and Alexander groaned, pulling a pillow over his head. Who calls this early? He mumbled. It was an unknown number, but something made me answer. Victoria, it's Dr. Harrison from the University of Miami. I'm calling with news about the reef restoration project you consulted on last year. The results are extraordinary. 92% survival rate for the transplanted corals. That's unprecedented. We want to publish the findings, and we want you as lead author. My heart stopped. Lead author. I had developed the methodology. This would change the field. After I hung up, I turned to Alexander, who had given up on sleep and was smiling at me. Good news, I said. The reef project, it worked. It really worked, and they want me to lead the publication. He pulled me into his arms, laughing. Of course it worked. You're brilliant. I've been telling you that for months, I smiled. This is huge, Alexander. It could mean grants, new research opportunities, maybe even a permanent position at the university. Dr. Harrison mentioned a new chair in marine conservation, I continued. He thinks I should apply. Then you absolutely should, he said. Victoria, this is what you've worked toward. But a permanent position meant staying in Miami, and Alexander's work took him around the world. The reality of it hit me all at once. What's wrong? He asked, reading my expression. If I take the job in Miami and you're traveling constantly, then we'll make it work, he said firmly. I can base myself out of Miami. I have property in the Caribbean, just a short flight away, and most of my work can be done remotely. I only need to travel for major meetings or project launches. You'd do that? Restructure everything? Victoria, I'd rearrange my life 100 times for you. You're not asking me to give something up. You're giving me a reason to settle down, something I've never had. I've been nomadic for years because nothing anchored me. Now I have a reason. You. I kissed him full of gratitude and love. When we finally pulled apart, he was grinning. Besides, Miami has great seafood, beaches, and you. What else could I want? My phone rang again, Olivia this time. Can I call you back? I asked. I just got amazing news. Is it about the paper? She asked. Dr. Harrison tweeted about it. Victoria, this is incredible. He's calling you a pioneering voice in marine conservation. I put her on speaker so Alexander could hear. You follow Dr. Harrison? I asked. I started following a lot of marine biology accounts after the engagement party, Olivia admitted. I wanted to understand your work. Victoria, what you're doing is incredible. I had no idea how far-reaching it was. So many groups are citing your research. How didn't we know? Because you never asked, I said gently, without resentment. I know. I'm sorry. But I'm asking now. Tell me everything. So I did. I spent 20 minutes explaining the reef project, its methods, and its global impact on coral conservation. Olivia listened, asked thoughtful questions, and for the first time I felt she saw me, not as the disappointing sister, but as a person. "I'm sharing this with everyone I know," she said when I finished. "My partners, my friends, they need to see what you're doing." After we hung up, Alexander pulled me back into bed. "Your sister's becoming your biggest supporter." Strange, but the good kind of strange. "It's what you deserve. Everyone who knows you should be cheering for you," he said. We spent the rest of the morning making plans. Alexander would start looking for a permanent home in Miami. I would apply for the university position. We'd set a wedding date for next spring somewhere in the Caribbean, intimate and beautiful, maybe on a sunset beach like he had planned for the proposal. "What about your family?" I asked. "You've never mentioned them." His expression darkened. "They're not in my life anymore. Long story, painful ending. The people at my conservation fund are my family now. And you're my family." "I want to know the whole story. If we're getting married, I should know." "You will," he promised. "Just not today. Today is for celebrating your success." He was right. The painful stories could wait. My phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Saw the news about your paper. So proud of you. Can we take you and Alexander out to dinner to celebrate?" I showed Alexander and he smiled. "Your family really is changing." "They are," I said. For the first time in my life, I felt like I had everything I'd ever wanted. The publication changed everything. Within a week, I was fielding calls from universities, conservation groups, and even a documentary filmmaker interested in my work. The University of Miami officially offered me the role of associate professor and director of the new Marine Conservation Research Center. Alexander threw an impromptu celebration at a waterfront restaurant, inviting my family, colleagues, and his conservation partners. My mother cried as she toasted, "I'm so sorry it took me this long to see the extraordinary woman my daughter is. But I see it now, and I'll spend the rest of my life making sure she knows how proud I am." My father followed, voice thick, with emotion. Victoria has always been brave enough to follow her heart, even when we tried to push her elsewhere. She's taught me that success isn't measured in dollars or status, but in the impact we have. My daughter is changing the world, one reef at a time. Olivia's toast surprised me most. I spent my whole life being the golden child, doing everything right. But watching Victoria, I realized I was doing everything safe. She took risks, chose passion over prestige, and found more happiness than I've ever known. Victoria, you're my hero. I hope one day I have half your courage. When it was my turn, I looked around at the people who loved and supported me. Alexander's warm hand in mine, my imperfect but trying family, my colleagues excited for the future. 3 months ago, I began. I went to my sister's engagement party expecting humiliation. I prepared for mockery and dismissal, and I got it. But then something amazing happened. Alexander showed up in a helicopter. Laughter rippled around the table. More importantly, he showed up for me. He saw me when my family couldn't, and somehow his seeing me helped them see me too. I won't pretend the years of hurt don't exist. They do. But I'm choosing to focus on the future, on the family we're building, and on the work we're doing to make the oceans healthier. Thank you all for believing that one person can make a difference. Later, as the party wound down, Bradley pulled me aside. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I dismissed your work, Alexander, everything you built. I believe success had one definition. You taught me there are different kinds of wealth. Purpose, passion, love, that's the kind that matters." "Thank you, Bradley. That means a lot. Olivia and I have been talking. We want to do more than accumulate money. We're thinking about funding conservation projects, using our skills to make a difference. Would you and Alexander advise us?" "I'd love that," I said, as guests left. My mother took my hand. "I know I can't undo the past," she whispered. "But I'm going to be better. The mother you deserved. Just keep trying." "Mom, that's all I ask." She hugged me tightly, tears on my shoulder. "I love you so much, Victoria. I'm sorry I didn't show it better." "I love you too, Mom." After everyone left, Alexander and I walked along the waterfront, the city lights reflecting on the dark water. He pulled me close, and we stood in quiet, watching boats drift by. This is what I wanted for you, he said softly. Recognition, support, love from your family. You deserve it. I have you to thank for it. If I hadn't shown up that day, you'd have found another way. You're stronger than you realize. I just helped speed things up. With a helicopter, I teased. With a helicopter, he laughed. I may have gone a little overboard with the gesture. It was perfect. You were perfect. We stood there a little longer, envisioning our future. The wedding was planned for 6 months from now on a quiet Caribbean beach, intimate with only the people who truly mattered. My family would be there, stronger and closer than before. Alexander's conservation team, the family he had chosen, would be there too. Together, we would begin a life dedicated to protecting the oceans we both cherished. Thank you, I whispered. For what? He asked, for seeing me. For showing up. For loving me just as I am. That's easy, he replied. You're impossible not to love. As we walked back to the car, I reflected on the path that had led me here. The years of feeling invisible, inadequate, wrong. I remembered hitting rock bottom at Olivia's party, and then Alexander appearing as if from a dream, changing everything. But he hadn't changed me. He had simply helped me recognize what was already inside me, my worth, my strength, my right to exist fully in the world. 6 months later, my parents watched from a Caribbean beach as I married the man who had arrived in a helicopter. Olivia, my maid of honor, adjusted my veil, tears in her eyes. My father walked me down the aisle, whispering, I'm so proud of you. As Alexander slipped the ring onto my finger, a perfect match to my sapphire engagement ring, echoing the ocean behind us, I looked out at the small gathering of loved ones, my family, imperfect yet trying. Friends and colleagues, united by our shared passion for conservation. And Alexander, my partner in every sense, smiling at me as if I were the center of his world. The years since my family's betrayal at Olivia's engagement party had been transformative. My parents had founded the Victoria Conservation Fund, supporting 3 marine research projects. Olivia's law firm offered pro bono legal services to environmental organizations, and she had become an advocate for ocean protection legislation. Bradley joined the board of a major conservation nonprofit, using his financial skills to help expand their work. The most surprising change, however, had been in my relationship with my family. We now shared monthly dinners where they genuinely asked about my work, listened, and celebrated my successes. My mother proudly displayed my published paper in their living room, and my father read every article I wrote, highlighting passages and asking questions. Olivia and I had grown into real sisters, supporting each other through challenges and celebrating victories together. Alexander and I built a life-blending adventure and stability. We split our time between Miami, where I taught and conducted research, and various project sites around the world for Alexander's conservation work. We bought a small house by the water, where we watched sunsets and planned our next project. Every day felt like a gift, working together to protect ecosystems and creating a life full of purpose. Standing on that beach, exchanging vows while my family watched with pride, I reflected on how far we had come. My family had once ridiculed my fiancé, called me a disappointment, and tried to humiliate me in front of everyone. That day, however, had become a turning point. Alexander's arrival had forced them to see what they had missed. The revenge I had achieved wasn't bitter or destructive. It was far better, a life built on purpose, love, and fulfillment, showing them what they almost lost and inspiring them to grow. As Alexander kissed me and our small gathering cheered, I thought of the girl at Olivia's party, standing alone while her family mocked her. I wished I could tell her that everything would be okay, that the man she waited for would arrive spectacularly, that her family would come around, that her work would be recognized and celebrated, and that she would find happiness beyond her imagination. Most of all, I wished I could tell her what I had finally learned. Her worth was never defined by her family's approval or anyone else's validation. She was enough, exactly as she was, doing exactly what she loved. The rest would follow.